Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into Season 26 of Battlegrounds and we're breaking down the best champions for this new meta. Here's a quick rundown of the nodes that we're going to be dealing with during Season 26, during the victory track. So for the attacker, we've got Umbral Vanguard, just going to boost your Deathless champions. It really only affects 4 champions. I think only probably 2 of them are going to be useful during the meta, which is going to be Guillotine Deathless, with her special one being able to apply a 150% neutralized passive, so she's going to take care of the Unstoppable. And then She-Hulk, when you punish heavies or special attacks from the defender, she's going to get Grit, which means also she's going to be able to kind of ignore the Unstoppable effects. Really, that's it for the attackers. Not a real big boost for the attackers this time, but you know, really when you look at the nodes for the victory track and even the first 2 weeks in Gladiator Circuit, you know, there's not really a big offensive boost needed. So the nodes this time are going to be Fight or Flight. Every 12 seconds, the defender's going to gain that Unstoppable buff for 4 seconds. If you're further away when it triggers, you'll get the Unstoppable buff. So spacing is going to be very important on the map, you know, how close you are to the defender, and you just kind of have to watch that timer tick down and make sure you're, you know, back away from the defender if you want the Unstoppable. The other one on there, and probably the bigger pain for me, is the Limber 2.1, which means every time you stun the opponent, it's going to reduce future stuns by 20%. So you're really only going to be able to get 1 parry, maybe 2 in, and then be able to, you know, go right into attacking from there. So with these nodes in play, we do need champs that can deal with Unstoppable, reduce the reliance on stuns, and keep up strong damage output. I'll be showing the champions that work best for my playstyle, but of course, there are plenty of great options out there, so if I miss your favorite, just let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your strategies. Let's jump in and take a look at what I think are going to be the best champions for this meta. All right, and the first class that we're going to look at is the skill class. Now, not a whole lot of options here that will help you with the limber portion of the nodes. Quite a few good champs that will help you deal with the Unstoppable though, and let's take a look at the first one of those. First one up is going to be Chioth. Now, for those that don't know, Chioth on her special one applies Grit to herself. What Grit does is it allows you to bypass the effects of Unstoppable. So as long as you can get a special one off before that first Unstoppable, you don't really have to worry about it. You're just going to be repeating special ones. Now with Chioth, ideally you want the defender to be able to bleed, so that's what you're going to look for. If you've got a defender that can bleed, Chioth is going to be an excellent option. If you've got one ranked up, I would think a rank 2 or rank 3 is going to do things sufficiently fast enough to get you a lot of wins in this meta. Next one up is going to be Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi, ready access to slow, ready access to ways to get openings without having to bait blocks with his unblockable on the medium, light, light, medium combo. And then, of course, he can stun with the medium, light, 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 medium combo. And, you know, just get his own openings that way. Plus, when you get to the special 2, I don't know if there's a harder hitting special 2 in the game if you build up enough charges on him on the way there. So I think Shang-Chi is going to work out very, very well as well. Now, the next one up, Stealth Suit Spider-Man. For those that like him, he's going to be great. You know, he's got the ready access to slow via the web foam. You know, he hits fairly hard. I don't particularly like him. I think he's too squishy for my playstyle. I know there's many that do like him, so I'm putting him here in this list for you guys. You know, he's going to be one that is viable. Only available as a 6-star, but you know, I think, you know, for those that like him, like his playstyle, I think he will work fine. And kind of Valkyrie's in that same boat. Valkyrie, you know, once you get her combo up high enough, she can ignore the Unstoppable effects. So I think she's going to work out very well there. Plus, you know, kind of like Shang-Chi, when you build up to that special 2, she hits very, very hard. So, you know, the health pools are getting bigger. You've got rank 4, 7 stars out there now. Some of the 6 stars are going to start to suffer because of that, and I think she may be one of them. So, you know, she's worth trying out. I may put her into my deck just to try it for a little bit. She does have a good counter to a lot of things. You know, she can hit into the block. She does not necessarily need to bait openings in any other way. So I think she is going to be a viable option for many. Now, on the defense side, it is pretty much just the standard heavy hitters on defense for the skill class. You've got a Tuma, you know, just a pain to deal with. You've got the Thorns damage that comes back to you. You know, you've got to watch out for his hydration stacks after he throws enough specials. So you're going to be baiting heavies, you're going to be baiting specials. He's going to go unstoppable at some point, in addition to the node putting him unstoppable. So really just a lot to look out for there. Requires a kind of a certain defender type to bypass the Thorns. So, just kind of, as always, just a little bit of a pain to deal with. Next up, Bullseye. He is going to be a champion that I'm probably going to ban every time I see him. Simply because, it's not so much an issue of his normal kit, which is a pain in the butt, but you're not going to be able to stun this guy. So typically what I would do is I would bait out a special one, you parry stun him once or twice to wait out the evade timer, and then you go back in. Well, the problem here now is those stuns don't last very long. And then you're going to start taking a lot more chip damage because of his crits through block and things like that. So you're going to have to do that. You're not going to have easy access to getting openings. You're going to end up backed in the corner, and then you're going to have to dex in the corner or get hit. You're going to have the unstoppable to deal with. He's just going to be an absolute menace to me. So he's going to be one that I probably ban every single time, but is an excellent defender. He is in my deck, so if you don't have him, look out. I will be placing him. Next up is Killmonger. Killmonger is just another one of those defenders like Atuma and like the next one up, where just kind of has a lot in his kit that you have to deal with. You've got the reverb, so you're going to be taking damage back in a lot of cases. He's got the, when he throws his special one, he goes unstoppable if you hit into his block. In addition to the unstoppable from the node, it's just a lot to keep track of. Plus, when he's throwing specials, he does have a tendency to take up a good portion of the map, so it's going to be hard to keep spacing. He does have easy to counter specials, and I think, with some of the spacing, it will help you with getting the unstoppable yourself, because you want to be fairly far away when he's throwing the specials, but just a lot to kind of keep track of there, especially with a high sig core or Killmonger. It's going to be really hard to deal with. And last up is going to be Korg. Korg is just one of those defenders that no matter what the meta is usually a pain in the butt to deal with, and this is no different. He's got the Thorn style damage that comes back. If you don't have non-contact medium hits, the unstoppable is just going to slow the fight down, and that's the main thing. With Korg, it's usually a slow fight anyway because you can't do a lot of damage when he has rock stacks. Now you've got play around the unstoppable. It's just going to be a slow fight. Are there champions that can handle Korg? Most definitely, but he's just one of those defenders that's always going to be tough. And that's going to wrap up the skill class for now. Let's jump on to the next class. All right, and the next class up is going to be the tech class. Now, the tech class has kind of what I classify as three different styles of champions for this meta. One is the pure attackers, two are the good two-way champions that can be attackers or defenders, and then three, the straight defenders. So let's jump in and look at the attackers first. And the first one up is one of my absolute favorite champions in the game, and that is Ironheart. I love her kit. I love the way she works. I love some of the fights that she can overcome. So, with Ironheart, she doesn't have anything that can deal with Limber. She doesn't have anything that can deal with the unstoppable, but she does have easy access to Incinerate or Rupture, depending on what you need, and it will help you overcome some of the pesky defenders. The damage over time is just going to help if you do have to wait out a unstoppable timer or something like that. It is just doing a little bit of damage as you're waiting. So always nice to have is some damage over time champions for this type of meta where you may have times you have to wait. Now her individual Incinerates and Ruptures don't do a whole lot, but she can stack a lot of them. Plus, she can be tanky. She can build up armors, be very, very tanky. And, if you do get hit a few times and you kind of get pushed down very low in health, she does have that heal that may make a difference in a fight, if your opponent messes up as well. But just, a few nice little things to have in the kit that, I think will be useful during this meta. Next one up is going to be Jack-o'-lantern. Jack, I don't think, very similar to Ironheart, doesn't have a whole lot that he can do in this to deal with either of the nodes. He's just an excellent champion to use on attack. Doesn't crit, so you're going to be able to deal with those champions like Mr. Sinister. Very, very good damage for like your onslaughts and things like that. So just a good champion having a deck to counter some of the peskier defenders, and one that I will be using throughout the season myself. Next up is going to be Prowler. Prowler, not a champion that I use. I don't have him as a high rank 7-star. I don't have him awakened yet, but he does have easy access to Falter, so he's going to be able to get openings that way. He does have easy access to some damage over time with Incinerate and Ruptures, and just is a very, very good attacker if you know how to use him. I can't really say much more. I have not really ever used Prowler, but, feel free to leave a comment down below on any tips or tricks for using Prowler for those that may want to use them and have questions. The next one up is going to be Shuri. Shuri is another one of those, nothing really that she can do with a node. She gets tanky. She does build up her personal armors and things like that, so she can take the hits in the block fairly well. Plus her specials will push the defender very far away. So you're going to have that, time there that if the unstoppable timer is running around, throw a special one, it's going to push the defender back. You're going to get the unstoppable to give you some openings there. So I think Shuri is going to work out just fine. Plus, kind of like the other ones in the tech class, she's got those shocks that are going to be doing damage over time. So if the defender does get the unstoppable buff on them, you're just going to be able to back away. You're going to be doing damage, so it's not like wasted time during the match. And then the last of the pure attackers for this meta, I think, in my mind, is going to be Stark Spider-Man. The boy hits like an absolute truck. You don't really want to be parrying a lot. So you're going to build up your 10 charges by dexing. You have to watch out for the unstoppable timer, but you're going to build to a special 2. You're going to drop that special 2, and if you have a rank 3 7-star, that special 2 is going to take out most defenders. He is a little bit of a glass cannon, so you do have to watch out for that. But I think he is going to be excellent, and he's going to finish most matches in 30 to 40 seconds if things go well. So not a whole lot to worry about there. Now, looking at the next group of champions, it is going to be those two-way champions, ones that are good both ways, and I think Red Skull fits into this conversation. He's a pain to deal with on defense. If you don't have a Cosmic Class that can do the armor breaks, he's going to get very, very tanky. He wants to be close to you. You can't really parry him anyway, so you're going to take that chip damage. Him being close to you, he's going to get the unstoppable a lot. You can't really counter his special 1, which means then you're pushing him to a special 2 maybe, but then he gets unstoppable on the special 2. So just a lot going on with that. He's, like I said, most of your Red Skull fights, you're up close and personal. So, just kind of a pain to deal with there. Next one is Guardian. Guardian is tricky to handle on defense because you can't really throw specials unless you, once again, have certain champs that can, remove the armor break and all that. He is very good on attack. It's usually most champions, one special 1, one special 2 is going to take care of most defenders. Nothing in his kit, once again, to deal with the nodes, but I think just one of those champions that's kind of a little bit of a pain to deal with on defense, usually a slower fight when he is the defender, but very good on offense as well. Another one of those champions just like that is going to be Sentinel. Since his rework, he is an absolute tank on defense. He's going to build up his 100 charges very quick on defense. He is just tanky. You're going to get some range from him when he throws his specials, and he's going to throw a lot of specials. And then the fear is near the end when you get him low on health. He gets armors. If you can't finish him off quick when he gets those armors disappear. He gains a lot of power, can drop that special 3, and, well, that special 3 heals him to full. So, just always something you kind of have to watch out for with Sentinel. And then on attack, he's got easy access to, like a heal block. So if you're fighting a Mr. Sinister or something like that, you've got access to ways to prevent him from healing. And then, my favorite thing to do really is just kind of build to a special 3, take whatever chip damage and all that comes along with it. You get up to your 100 charges, drop the special 3, you get the heal to full, and then when you come back out of the special 3, you're either at or very close to a special 2, and the incinerates on that special 2, you'll stack on 10 of them, do an absolute ton of damage. And then you're going to be probably at a special 1, maybe a little bit over a bar power, so you can build really quickly up to that special 2. Now, he's not the fastest attacker out there, but he's going to finish some tricky fights close to a full health bar if you play it the right way. Next one up, new champ that I'm really falling in love with, at least new champ for me, and that is Shocker. Excellent damage output. Once again, nothing to really overcome the nodes, except for the stun on his special 2 is not affected by the limber. So you're going to be able to use that. And then on defense, you're not going to be able to parry this guy at all and get any openings. So you're going to have to be baiting out heavy attacks or specials. And, the heavy's easy to counter. The special 1 can be tricky depending on spacing. If you don't have the spacing right and you try to counter it, you're going to end up getting stunned yourself. And then the special 2, if you don't dex at the right time on the last jump, you're going to take a ton of damage, get stunned, and he's going to kill you. So, it is one of those things that, he's a little bit of a trickier defender. You can't really throw specials because he's an auto block. You can't necessarily bait openings if you're far away from him because he goes unblockable. So a lot in his kit to kind of watch out for there when he's on defense, going to work great on offense as well. And now those next group of champions up are going to be the kind of what I view as more pure defenders. They can be used on attack in a pinch, but first one up, Arcade, just a pain to deal with. The way I deal with his special 1 does not really work for this meta, so I'm having to change up my fight style. Typically, what I do when he throws a special one is I would dex the whole way back to the end of the screen, let him drop the trap at the, as far away from him as he can, and then I would rush in and be close to him for the second part of it. That way he doesn't get any of his tokens, doesn't get the auto block up or anything like that. But in this meta, when you rush into him and that unstoppable goes off, well, you're kind of in a bad position. So I'm going to have to change my fight plan up for the way I fight arcade. Haven't quite figured it out, haven't got it working yet, but he is one that you can counter that way. And then the last of the champions I want to discuss is going to be Arnim Zola. You can't really parry heavy this guy. That's what you want to do with him. So he's just going to be a pain on defense. I don't know his kit very well yet. Fairly new champion. Not a lot of them out there. But if I see him, I'm going to ban him because I just don't want to deal with him yet. And the next class that we're going to look at, we're going to jump over and we're going to look at the mutants. All right, and now in the mutant class, some of your normal champions that you really like to use to overcome a lot of different nodes aren't really going to work very well. In particular, like AA, you're not going to really be able to parry heavy. You'll be able to get one, maybe two parry heavies off if you're lucky, and then the limber is going to prevent you from being able to get any other, parry heavies off during the fight. So you're going to have to find openings for him other ways. Would he work? Possibly. Would I use him? Probably not. So let's go ahead and take a look at those champions that I think are going to be pretty good for this meta. First one up is going to be Dazzler. With many champions, nothing that she can overcome on the nodes. She just does a ton of damage. It's going to be a one special one special two is probably going to finish off a good portion of the defenders. So, with that, you can get one parry heavy away. She does have a way to do openings when she gets to 10 charges. She can kind of go in and she puts a quick little passive stun on there. So you're going to be able to get an opening into doing a combo that way. So, she does have a few things. Her, specials do push the defender away. So, it is a way to get some spacing on there so that you can get the unstoppable for yourself. Other than that, just a high damage output champion. Pretty easy to play, pretty fun to play, and I think she's going to be just fine for attack. Next one up is going to be your Deadpool, and his is just a matter of damage output. He's going to put some damage over time effects on there. He can handle bleed, he can handle non-bleed. Do have to kind of look out for the unstoppable and the limber, but he is going to be just fine. His damage output is high enough that he's going to be able to overcome most of the limitations from the nodes. Next up, Negasonic, one of the champions I've just recently taken to rank 3 myself. Her stun does not get affected by limber. It is a passive stun, so she can parry heavy, she can parry medium into a 5-hit combo, she can parry medium heavy. That is not going to be affected at all, so she's going to be able to stack up her incinerates. Her damage output isn't the greatest, but she handles, the Atumas, the Korgs, things like that. And then just the ready access to be able to parry and hit into them just like normal is a great opening. You do have to look out for the unstoppable, but, like I said, with some other champions, she's got some damage over time. So if they do get the unstoppable, you just kind of have to wait it out while you're still doing damage, which is always nice. And then last up, and this is really a two-way champion here, and that's Onslaught. He's going to work out just fine on attack. He has some of the best damage abilities in the game. He is tricky to handle on defense. So, very, very good option there for your deck. If you need a good two-way champion, I would recommend using Onslaught in there as well. Now, on the defender side, there's really only two that I can think of that are going to be a little tricky to deal with. One of them is going to be an absolute menace, I think. The other one's just kind of tricky. That tricky one is going to be Dust. You can't really let her hit into your block, or you're going to build up dust charges on you and then just take, damage that way. So, it limits your opportunities. Typically what you want to do is back away, parry her medium, and then do a combo and all that. But you're not going to be able to parry and get your openings that way. So you're going to have to intercept. You can't really bait out blocks because, like I said, you're going to be building up the sand charges on you and taking damage over time from her. You can push to a special 2 because you can counter that special 2. So, just a little tricky to deal with. There's going to be champions that can handle her. I think Ironheart will work just fine. Any of your incinerate champions that can help burn off the sand will work fine. But she's just going to be one of those that is a little tricky to deal with when she's there as the defender. And then the one that is going to kind of be like Bullseye for me, that if I see him out there, I'm going to ban him every time, and that is Wolverine Weapon X. He's got a lot in his kit. He goes unstoppable on his own. He goes unblockable on his own. Then you've got the node. You can never really get much spacing from him because he is very, very aggressive when he does go berserk. So, just so much going on in there. Your typical champions that can handle him can probably handle him, but it's just going to be one that, spacing on the map is going to be key when you do have to fight him. It is going to be very hard to keep because he's going to be hitting into you quite often. Well, and that's going to wrap up our mutant class. Let's jump on to the next one. All right, next class up is Science. Probably my favorite class in the game right now. I love a lot of the champions that are in here. I love a lot of the champions you're going to be able to use. Let's go ahead and take a look at them. First up on the list is going to be Falcon Joaquin Torres. Now, his damage output is lacking. It is not very good, but he does have ready access to slow, so it's going to help speed up some fights where you're not going to have to wait out the unstoppable timer. And, he's able to keep that slow up pretty easily and throughout the whole fight. So it's going to provide you, a good way of dealing with some champions. I don't necessarily like him. His kit is fairly easy to use. If you like him, he's going to work out just fine for you. Next up is going to be Hulk. Nothing in his kit that overcomes the nodes. Hulk just smashes. Plain and simple. He's going to be able to finish most fights in 40 to 50 second range. Throw a special 2. You can't really stun lock with him this time, but his high damage output, his little bit of tankiness is going to help you overcome a large portion of the node. Even if you do have to wait out the timer, I think he's going to finish fights quick enough that, he's going to be a viable champion to use. Next up is going to be She-Hulk. Easy access to slow. The downside to her is it is on her heavy. So, you have to parry heavy to get the slow on originally, and then you're going to have to heavy counter either a special 1 or a heavy or a special 2, something like that. So, you've got to look for opportunities and fights. So it's going to be a little bit of a pick and choose which fights you can use her on, but she can apply slow fairly easily and, help you overcome the unstoppable. Next up, the one of the She-Hulks that is probably the better one for this meta, and that's the Deathless She-Hulk because of the global. And there, all you're going to have to do is counter a heavy or counter a special. You're going to get grit. You can ignore unstoppable and just kind of go to town from there. So, don't really have to worry about the unstoppable at all. Just bait out a heavy early on, bait out a special 1 early on, keep the defender throwing specials, keep them throwing heavies. You don't have to worry about the unstoppable, and you're going to do just fine. Next up is Silk. Silk is one that I'm not sure if I'm going to use or not. I think she's going to be just fine. She hits very hard, very easy to apply slow. You just kind of have to push them back towards the side of the map. But at the same time, her specials, she is fairly close to them for a good portion of it. You do kind of have to watch out for that. You cannot reliably do her heavy, the combo into her heavy because of the limber. I did run across, some issues with that on some fights. So, just some things to keep in mind. I think Silk will be just fine. I don't know if I'll be using her, but, that may change as the meta goes on. Spider-Ham, going to be Spider-Ham. Nothing that really does anything for the nodes, but, when you get the power stings on there, really you're just wanting the defender to throw specials. So you're baiting specials a lot of the time anyway. Just going in for your medium-light mediums to counter. It's going to be just fine. I think his damage comes from the power stings. As long as you can get the defender throwing specials, you're going to be okay and get things taken care of from there. Next up, Titania. Kind of like Hulk. Her kit does not really play into the nodes very well, but she just does a lot of damage. To me, I was able to throw off a special 3. You got to get them back in the corner. You do her heavies while they're in the corner and have all the debuffs on there, and she's able to finish most fights. So I think Titania is going to work out fine for you. One that I'm kind of considering a two-way champion is going to be Count Nefaria. Nothing in his kit either way really does much. I just find, personally, Nefaria is a pain to deal with on defense. I end up getting tagged by his specials and things like that. So, most people aren't going to have any problem with him. I may have a little bit of problem with him. He's going to be fine on attack. He does push you away a little bit. And he, can handle some pesky defenders out there. So I think he's going to be one that's pretty good, kind of two-way champion. Along with that, Photon. Photon's an excellent defender. We all know that. She's a pain to deal with. And then, on attack, she is a very, very good attacker when you have to use her on attack. So, very good two-way champion there, able to, really put out a lot of damage. Has some ways to get openings and all that in there, and just does, a ton of damage both ways. So very, very good there. And then one pure defender, Thing, you're going to have to watch out for his rock stacks. He goes unstoppable on his own. Very easy for him to back you into a corner and just kind of, pound on you while you're in there having to dex his hits. So if you don't watch that the rock stack counter and you get behind, it could be very, very hard to get back into the fight. So he's going to be a tricky defender to deal with. And let's jump on to the next class. All right, now the next to last class is going to be the Mystic class. I think there's some excellent offensive counters in here, a few good defenders, just like always. Let's jump into the Mystics and see who we've got. First one up, Deathless Guillotine, going to be one of the better attackers in this. I think she needs the ranks. Mine is rank 2. I'm debating taking her to rank 3. But because of the attacker node this meta, she's one of the 2 champions that I recommend using on the Deathless side. Very easy access to a passive neutralize on her special 1. So you're going to throw a special 1 that's going to put the passive neutralize, and it's going to take out the unstoppable pretty much for the rest of the fight, as long as you can keep rotating special 1s in a fairly aggressive time frame. Just kind of have to keep them going. Just kind of paying attention to it, and she's going to be just fine. She can do damage over time as well. So if you do have to wait out a unstoppable or something like that, you're able to do that. She can heal up some. So very, very good option to do things. It may not be the fastest fights out there, but she's going to help you in some trickier to handle fights. Next up, Juggy. Juggy's just an absolute beast. He is able to stagger on his heavy, so you can do some heavy countering and things like that. Get a stagger on there to help keep off the unstoppable. He's got his own unstoppable. He does a lot of damage. He can nullify. So excellent champion. Not going to be useful for Gladiator Circuit when you get there, but going to be good while you're building your way there on the victory track. Next up, Long Shot. Long Shot, going to be a trickier to use attacker, but can be used very well. He does have part of his kit where if the defender gets unstoppable, he's able to nullify it and copy it onto himself. So, he's going to be able to overcome that. He is very good in buff heavy matchups. Just some good defense out there, or good attack abilities out there. Can handle some of the stronger defenders. Go watch Trappy's video on Long Shot. He did an excellent job kind of detailing out Long Shot and how to use him on attack, and what you're going to be able to do in this meta with him. Next one up, Shathra. Nothing for the node, really. Easy access to special 2s. Once you build her up a little bit, throw one special 1, then you're able to drain some of the defender's power with your heavy attack, and then you're able to launch an unblockable special 2, and you're kind of able to get in a pattern where you can kind of rinse it and repeat those. A little bit trickier to play, but I think because you're able to throw the special 2s and you want to keep that spacing on the map anyway, so that you can hold heavy for a little bit without getting hit, I think she'll work out just fine. Tigra is one I probably should have put as a 2-way champion. On attack, she's got the neutralize, going to be able to really help you handle the nodes there. And then on if she's on defense, she tears up a lot of the map. She's pushing you back against the back wall quite often. Spacing is always key and crucial when fighting Tigra. And then I think because of the unstoppable node in there, plus her specials go unblockable, it's going to be kind of tricky to handle. She doesn't have the biggest health pool out there. She is not a 7-star, so use her where you will, but I think she'll be just fine both ways. Kind of the same with Werewolf. Werewolf, easy access to get some power gain, easy access to some damage over time. Going to be tricky on defense as well. So I think, a little bit of a 2-way champion there. I think he will help you out, though. That damage over time that he does, you can do it in a block. You don't necessarily have to have openings. You don't have to bait out things. Just as fine hitting into his block consistently throughout the fight as you are hitting the opponent. Next up is going to be Wiccan. Wiccan, easy access to neutralize. Glass cannon, so use him if you have to. I'm not going to. I think he's got good damage output. Like I said, easy access to the neutralize, but your openings, you're going to have to be careful because he can't take very many hits in the block without losing a good chunk of health. Now, as far as your defenders go, Ebony Maw. Maw is just a pain no matter what meta, but now you're having to balance the unstoppable, staying away from them, trying to knock them down so that you're not phasing, all that kind of fun stuff. Your typical Maw counters will work, but just going to be one of those that's going to be a little bit harder to deal with, and not one that I enjoy fighting in almost any meta. Next up, Enchantress. Another one that just is no real good counters to overcome her, to be point blank. I can't think of very many of them. It is just a pain to deal with her in the fights. You kind of have to do her prompts, and get them done before a special 1, and then you're having to deal with the unstoppable. So just a lot to kind of keep track of there and what you're going to have to do. So, going to be an excellent defender, kind of like she is in most metas. And then the last one up for me as far as good defenders and, a possible attack option if needed is Kindred. Primarily because of the way you have to fight him. Very similar to the way I fight Arcade. On his special one, you dex that, the insects, whatever, are coming out of him there, and then you kind of rush back in so you're able to counter the next part of his special one. Well, with that, you're staying close to him. If you don't have the timing right, he goes unstoppable and you can't counter the special one. So he's going to build up his 50 charges. He's going to put the degen on you, and he's going to do a chunk of damage, probably a lot easier in this meta than in a lot of metas. So that's going to wrap up Mystic. Let's jump over to our last class, which is the Cosmic class. Okay, last class up being the Cosmic class. Only going to go over a couple of these. I don't really see a lot of these champions being hindered in any way from being used. Not a lot of them, like a lot of the classes, will overcome the nodes, but use your favorite Cosmic champion. They're going to do just fine on attack. Or if you want to use like a Nova or something like that on defense, I think they're going to be just fine as well. I'm just going to highlight a couple ones here real quickly because this video has gone on long enough. First one up, Maestro. Just a lot going on. Can't really take a lot of hits in a block because he does get the pierce and he does hurt very much so when he gets built up and is trying to hit into your block. You can't really fight him very easily and do a lot of damage unless you have a good Mystic champion to overcome him. So just kind of a lot going on in that fight in addition to the nodes. Medusa, going to be good both ways. Able to handle some pesky fights because of her just pure damage output. Able to armor break, able to put that armor shatter on there. Those furies make her hit like a truck. And then conversely on the defensive side, her auto block without having the ability to parry her and get hits that way is going to come into play even on a low sig at Medusa. So be careful there on defense. Have a counter in mind for her if you see one out there. Next up, Deathless Thanos. He is just a very, very tricky defender. Very good on the attack side as well. Nothing that overcomes the nodes necessarily, but he is going to work out very well both ways. It's going to be a slow fight against him if you're having to fight him. He gets specials a lot. You're having to bait specials a lot. You have to watch out for his natural unstoppable in addition to the node and everything else. Just going to be a tricky defender to handle. He's got counters, but it's a slow fight regardless of who you use against him. And then, of course, we've got Serpent. Serpent is one of the better defenders out there. I think he's going to be tricky good on attack because you're able to keep that distance very much, and he does have good damage output. So, you're going to be able to use these champions, a lot of the Cosmic ones either way. Your standard good Cosmic attackers, your good Cosmic defenders are going to be your good Cosmic attackers and your good Cosmic defenders in this meta. And let's go ahead and wrap this video up. So I do want to thank all of you for watching this. I hope this does help you out. Let me know in the comments down below who you think I may have missed in this. Hopefully I covered almost all of them, but you never know. So I do greatly appreciate it. Hit that like. Please feel free to subscribe. And until the next one, take care all.